once you accept a situation for what it is, and this is really important, so listen up to this bit. Once you accept a situation for what it is, you no longer live in this delusional state. I used to run 209. I don't run 209 anymore. My fitness isn't in 209 shape. If I keep living the delusion that I'm still that guy, I don't accept sort of almost what needs to happen to get back there, right? So the minute that you accept, I'm not there anymore, I'm here. How do I get back there? You start putting in the work to get back there. But if your ego is too strong and you're unwilling to accept that you're not there anymore, you almost never put in the work to get back there. 4 years ago, I achieved something that I honestly never believed I'd be capable of, certainly not as a youngster growing up. And I was able to go out there on race day, and I had this amazing fitness for probably a 4 to 5 week period that allowed me to run 209 for the marathon and 61:08 for a half marathon. But the problem is, it's been a long time since I've had that kind of fitness, and I've found myself in training lately beating my head against the wall a little bit, and I'm sure you've felt that feeling when you're trying to still recreate training sessions, splits, an ability from the past, but actually perhaps it's hindering your current situation. And so I'm sure I'm not the only person that could benefit from actually drawing a line in the sand, making it very clear with yourself, we're not there right now, and the only way for us possibly to ever get back there is to accept where we are right now, and then we start working towards where we want to be. It's super, super important, but why do we find it so hard? And what are some of the benefits around accepting where you're at right now, and how that's not a failure or a cop-out, and that's the only way to get yourself back to perhaps where you want to be. But let's talk about it. I'm no longer a professional sponsored athlete. 2025, I'm supporting myself. If you could do something for me, which is completely free, you could like, you could subscribe, you could comment below, and I'll do my best to get content coming to you thick and fast every week. That's been the goal for 2025. You can also check out Jogging Clo, that's the running merchandise, some amazing testimonials on there. My marathon plan is also there. It's £19.99p. There's now a base training phase that you can do in between marathons, $19.99. You can check those things out. But let's get back to the video. So why do we resist accepting where we're at? You know, it feels good when you're, in a really good state of fitness. It feels good when you achieve something incredible. It certainly bloody felt good when I ran 209. I felt pretty bloody good about myself. That's what you could say. It's difficult, and it feels like it hurts the ego to say to yourself, we're not there at the minute. Maybe I'm actually a 218 runner right now. Maybe I'm a 220 runner right now. But when you don't sort of accept the situation for what it is and you resist, you end up creating all kinds of problems. And the reason you don't ever really get back to where you needed to be is because you're not training in the right way. Say, for example, you're still trying to cling to previous sort of fitness that you don't have. You go out the door, you're set 3 times 10 minutes. It's supposed to be at Let's Pretend Marathon Effort. It's the exact session that I did today. It's week 1 of the marathon plan. The plan's on 262clo.com if you want to start following it. But if you go out the door and you're trying to run this 3 times 10 minutes around sort of marathon effort, but you're still trying to be your best self. You're still trying to act like your fittest self. So before you even leave the house, you're nervous, you're stressed, you're anxious, you're worked up about it. But you're not worked up about 3 times 10 minutes at marathon effort. You're worked up about trying to run 3 times 10 minutes at some pace that exists in the past. I wasn't amazingly quick today. I probably averaged about 5:15 to 5:20 per mile. But actually, if I woke up this morning and I thought of myself as a guy that runs a marathon at 5:30 per mile, then I crushed this morning's session. But if I wake up this morning and I try to get in that headspace of the 209 marathon runner, I know back then I used to be able to do, maybe it was 3 times 2 mile at 4:50 to 5 minutes per mile. So what happens is you leave training on a daily basis perhaps, not feeling very good about yourself. You probably don't finish sessions because you're trying to run them too hard. And you end up with all this stress and anxiety and not very good feelings because you're not accepting the current fitness. So your very, very first step is to make a real honest assessment of where is the fitness at. And I think that's crucial. It's crucial for your own enjoyment of running. It's crucial for you to actually stay in the sport, because if you don't start accepting where you're at, you're going to have all these bad experiences that you simply didn't deserve. And so right now, it's going to hurt me. I don't even know why it's difficult, but right now I'm probably a 2:18 marathon runner at best. Wow. I don't mean that to sound in any way offensive. It's just I used to run 2:09. I still wish I bloody could run 2:09. And the reason it shouldn't upset me at all is my priorities right now have been different. I've been trying to focus on building 262 Clo, all the running gear. You know, we shipped out so many orders last week that I am busy, but you still need to accept this is where you're at. I've been doing 30-minute runs that I called mental health runs. I've been doing some little bits of tempo. I've been doing some hill sessions. And so it shouldn't bother me at all that that's where the fitness is at. And if you're in a similar position and you haven't been training, you know, your tits off, and you haven't been super focused, and you were maybe eating a certain way over Christmas that doesn't lend itself to being brilliant at running, and you haven't been fully focused or whatever, and you haven't been doing your gym, and you haven't been doing your stretching, and you haven't been doing blah, 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 it shouldn't bother you to accept you're not where you've perhaps been in the past. But I bet you'll comment below and say it's very difficult to fess up to it. And try it, you know, go to a bloody mirror at home, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm not where I need to be right now. I'm not where I've been in the past right now. If you're overweight because you've been eating like shit, say, I'm overweight, I've been eating like shit. If your fitness isn't where it needs to be because you haven't been doing the training, say, my fitness isn't where it needs to be because I haven't been doing the training. Once you make that decision, that then makes all the next couple of weeks beautiful. Once you accept my fitness isn't where it's been in the past, I'd like it to be back there, but I haven't been doing X, Y, and Z. Then you start doing X, Y, and Z, and you start doing them at the right intensity and the right effort based on where your fitness perhaps is at right now. And guess what happens? You slowly start to chip away and get back there. If you don't accept that this is where it's at, you might not put in the work to get back there, and you might start running all your intervals, your tempos, everything that little bit too hard, not finish them. You'll never build a nice rhythm, and you'll never really get back to your best. You'll end up in this tough cycle of resisting that you're not where you need to be, you're not where you want to be, or maybe you still think you are, and you'll never quite get back to those best days. And remember that those best days, they kind of probably came about just by focusing on the process. And I wasn't a 209 guy, obviously, before I ran 209. I just got stuck into the process of being a good runner, and I became a 209 guy. Then when you start trying to act that way, it doesn't always materialize that way. I understand it's not that easy to accept that current fitness, because I feel like, and you can comment below, you can let me know what you think, but for me, it feels like you're almost giving up on the ambition. For me to say publicly and live to all you guys, are not live, but you know, broadcasting this all over the internet, that perhaps in my next marathon, I'm going to try to run 2:15 for the marathon. There's something poetic and, you know, amazing when I come on here and I say, I'm going to try to make the Olympics, or I say, I'm going to try to break 2:10 for the marathon. But then I'm just upsetting myself in the process because I'm biting off a bit more than I can chew, and it sort of ends in failure. Now, not failure from a perspective of you tried, you gave it a go, you got stuck in, but a failure because you were perhaps setting yourself up for failure before it even started. And so it shouldn't feel like you're giving up on yourself by setting your ambition at a level that you're ready to achieve right now. And so maybe you want to break 3 hours for the marathon in future. Maybe you went 3:20, 3:12, 3:05, and you were chipping away lovely. And then your recent marathons just haven't quite been there. what then tends to happen is you keep trying to go back for that next one, that next progression, that sub 3. And actually, because you haven't sort of had success in a while, maybe you need to go back to sort of 310, rebuild that momentum, 306, 302, 257. But it's difficult. It is really difficult to accept the situation for what it is and going backwards to then go forward. You might surprise yourself. You might surprise yourself in the second that you accept the fitness for what it is, the second you stop chasing something like the sub 3 or the sub 210, you might surprise yourself that training at the right intensity, simply focusing on the process, not getting as stressed around sessions, sleeping way better because you're not constantly in your own head about not being able to achieve certain things, you might find you surprise yourself and achieve something that you didn't know you were capable of. And all it took was for you to accept where you are right now and not see that as some form of, I'm quitting on myself, I'm quitting on my big goals. My plan is to get back into marathon training. I started week 1 pretty much right now. I did a bit of a longer run. It was probably too long. And I did say that the plan's on 262clo.com, kind of a plug, but also if I'm going to document doing the training over this next sort of 4 months towards a marathon in April, you might find it fun to follow along or join in, or you can hold me accountable to the sessions that I'm supposed to be doing, and that would be really cool too. But the big master plan, if that's what you want to call it for me now, is to just get back into training. My quote in 2025 has been, you're doing it, right? And what I mean by you're doing it is when I get a little bit anxious or I get a little bit stressed and maybe the pace isn't where I would have loved it to have been, I just repeat in my own head, you're doing it. We're out here doing it. And the purpose behind that is to just focus on getting the training done that's going to get me to where I need to be. And so I want to get to April and be ready to achieve a good marathon result. I don't know what that's going to be. It's like if people ask me to maybe coach them and they tell me their 5K PB, their 10K PB, what could I run for a marathon? We never know, guys. We really don't know. All we can do is we can say, I'm going to commit to this plan. I'm going to follow it. I'm going to try to recover as best I can. I'm going to try eat as best I can. I'm going to live in a way that I hope will help me absorb maximum benefits from this training. And then whatever will be, will be. If I did 3 times 10 minutes this morning and I did it at zone 3, I kept the heart rate where it needed to be and the average was probably 5:16 per mile, and that might predict I'm going to run X, Y, and Z for the marathon, well then it is what it is. If in 8 weeks time it's then 5:04 per mile, or maybe it's 4:55 per mile, well then guess what? That's then going to predict something else for the marathon. So I'm not really setting a big target, you could say. I just want to have a really positive experience. I want to enjoy my running. I want to enjoy the training, and I don't want to put loads of stress and pressure on trying to shoot for something that perhaps I'm not capable of at that moment in time. I want to extract the absolute most out of myself in this current situation while doing the training. I'm not trying to not set the bar high at all. I want to achieve something really great. I just don't know what it is right now. I don't want to over celebrate the good days, and I don't want to over beat myself up on the bad days. That's the best advice I could probably give you. We're not going to go blowing our own trumpets because we did something on race day, but then we're not going to go beating the shit out of ourselves because it didn't go a certain way on race day. That was maybe 2024. That was our history. We don't do that anymore. Moving forward, running is going to be something that we do. We're going to commit to it. We're going to get stuck in. We're going to do our training. We're going to follow a plan. We're going to eat good, sleep good, do the gym stuff. Remember the quote, you're doing it. We're out there doing it. We're going to follow that process. And then whatever that creates is what it creates. And if it's amazing, it's amazing. That's fantastic. If it's not very good, well, it's not very good. And we have a look at it. If there's things we can change, we change it a bit and we move forward. I hope you took something valuable out of that. As always, if you would like to check out the running gear, you can, 262clo.com. Go look at the testimonials. You know, it speaks for itself, sorry. And I would really appreciate that. You can like, subscribe, comment if this is something you enjoyed, and good luck with what you're doing.